Rite of Passage, the podcast with Giabra Martin.
Cool. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the show. We are here with author Alexa Wood. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I thought it was going to be a slow day, and then it turned out to be a crazy day. So we pushed this back a couple minutes, and I am grateful that you were able to do that. So thank you in
Yeah, of
advance.
course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, some days are just like that. Things just pop up.
It is. And it's been a crazy week for sure.
Yeah, I don't know, just that time of year or something. I don't know.
Right.
Like it's spring break or whatever it is, it just feels like, yeah, the work piles up on the front end, and then, but hopefully, means have a quiet weekend or something.
Yeah, for sure.
So we were talking. So this is your very first podcast.
Yes.
That's exciting. That's a big milestone.
Yeah, it is. I published my first book and first podcast all in the same year. So
Woo! There you go. There you go. Well, I'm honored that we could be the first here. Hopefully, this will be a very good experience for you, and then but it'll be obviously your best podcast experience, and then also your worst,
right?
also the worst at the same time. But hopefully,
Right.
we set a good kind of entry. God, I've been working since 5 a.m. Good like starting level, and then it can only build from there. So
Yeah, of course.
yeah, so I got your book pulled up here. It is called Jefferson Manor. Do you happen to have a copy with you?
Yes. Right here.
Wonderful. Let's take a look at it.
Okay. Yeah. So here's the cover.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah. And then the little description on the back of it.
Ooh, you got the nice hard copy.
Yeah, I have a hard copy. I mean, I obviously have paperback too, but just
Right.
not with me at the moment.
There's nothing like a hard copy. They get really pricey, but I love a good hard copy book. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm definitely a print type reader. I don't do Kindle or any of that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of old school when it comes to that.
I totally get that. So I was like delivering pizzas during COVID when I wrote my first book, and I had like the entire Sherlock Holmes series, and I had it on my phone. And it was nice just because they're all like really short.
hmm
But then I was like, oh, I was looking at free books, and I was like, uh, I forget the one, but there was one that was like, some thousand pages, and I'm like, yeah, phone screen's not gonna work for this.
Right?
And
That's a
yeah,
little
I think it was,
much for a
oh god, it
phone.
was like Ulysses or something, and I was like, ooh, like this might be better for a paperback or an audiobook or something,
Yep, for sure.
Oh, so tell me about, I love the cover. Just by the way, is that a real, doesn't look like AI or anything. Is that a real mansion that exists
Yeah,
somewhere?
so I actually created the cover myself.
Nice.
Through Canva. So I actually used Canva and created it myself. So I didn't, I mean, it was kind of a learning curve, obviously, because I'm
Yeah,
not a
yeah, yeah.
designer, but I love how it turned out. I think it turned out great for my first book.
No, honestly, it looks amazing, and I do all my own covers in Canva. Like I'm talking
Yeah,
that Canva subscription was the best thing I
it
ever.
was. Yes.
Like, I mean, there's so many. Oh my God, there's a million ways to spend money as an indie author, but a Canva subscription is a very good use of $100 a year or whatever it is.
Yes.
I love me some Canva. So, let me ask you ahead of time because I'm very curious. Are you working on a sequel currently, or?
It's in the works. It hasn't I haven't really decided because I have two ideas for my next published book. I don't know if I'm going to hop on to do the sequel right away or if I'm going to wait a little bit and
Hmm.
publish another book in between. I haven't kind of decided the avenue I'm going to go.
But you're not a one and done author. You're like, no, listen, we're full
Yeah.
commit. We're doing this thing.
Yeah. It was pretty exciting, just getting it out there. It's kind of always been a dream to have a
Hmm.
published book, and then
Yeah.
this just kind of happened. So, I mean, I'm thankful. And after doing it and seeing that I could actually, really go the self-published route,
Right.
there's no reason not to do a second book.
Honestly, yeah, I didn't even know that was like an option when I first started out. It's like, oh, I could just publish it directly. Like, I don't have to do
Yeah,
this. Yeah, I
yeah,
was like, oh, well, shoot, we're doing
yeah,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Tell me about the book. Tell me about Jefferson Manor.
So I wanted to create kind of a Halloween vibe story, because I grew up, like, I love Halloween. So I grew up watching like Halloween Town and, stuff like that. But
Yeah.
as I got older, the Halloween towns, like, they're more kiddish, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that they're more directed towards kid time frame. So I wanted to create a teenager one on the cusp of adulthood, but
Okay.
they all love Halloween and the town itself loves Halloween. So this
Mm,
big tradition that they do is seniors can have a Halloween night in this enticing manor.
okay.
And this manor is only accessible to the public during Halloween night.
Mm.
And this has been going on for decades. So the teenagers that are selected just kind of get to do a little lockdown in a manor, and it kind of turns into this cat and mouse game with people that are in the manor that aren't supposed to be there.
Oh,
Yeah.
kind of into that, honestly. So like, 'cause I have heard they do that, right? With like, you can do like overnight in like a haunted house or
hmm
something. But
Yeah.
there's some people in there who aren't supposed to be there.
Right. So this town actually also has a weird tradition where they lock down homes on Halloween night.
Mm,
So they have ironclad shutters that come down on every home,
mm.
and they only come up at dawn. And it's just on Halloween. They did this to prevent, basically for safety reasons.
Okay.
And then, so the kids, the seniors that are selected, will be locked in the manor all night.
Okay.
So like legit locked.
Like someone from the outside puts chains on the doors or something.
So the cops actually have a button that they press, and bars come down on every house.
Okay. So is there like a local superstition within the town that like, oh, Halloween night, like don't go out and, stay in, be careful?
So it's more based on, I mean, I don't want to give it too much
Right,
away, but
right,
it's
right.
more based on kind of secrets of the town that
Okay.
the main characters, like the teenagers, they don't really know. They just grew up with this tradition that
Right.
these bars come down. I mean, they don't know anything different, and their
Yeah.
families kind of hush hush on like why it happens and things like that. But it's more of just a safety precaution.
I like it. Well, I'm into that. So you grew up kind of watching like the Halloween films. Were there like,
Yeah,
did you grow up like reading like the Goosebumps books and like all this
I
kind of stuff?
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I grew up on Goosebumps, scary stories to tell in the
Yeah.
dark kind of deal. I did grow up more towards like mystery novels.
Mm.
Since I do love Halloween, obviously I focused more on Halloween novels, like around
Mhm.
Halloween time, like Halloween Town and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I'm more driven towards like mystery and thrillers.
Okay. So the current work in progress that you have, is that also going to be kind of same genre? Are you like, is this kind of like, this is like, all right, this is going to be my niche, at least for a little while here?
For a little bit, I will focus on thrillers. Eventually, I do want to branch out. But for the moment, it'll be mainly thrillers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your reviews are stunning, and I've never written like a thriller. What does
Mhm.
it take to write a great thriller? Maybe that's too broad, but like in your opinion, like what defines a really good thriller book?
Honestly, I think keeping readers on their like on the edge of their seats and not really
Mhm.
knowing because I mean nowadays you see movies like thrill movies and you kind of can guess what's going to happen before, or at least I can. I can guess what's going to happen before the ending.
Yeah.
So it's more so creating like dropping, for me it was dropping hints here and there, but not giving it fully away until like the last second.
So is it the kind of thing like when it all does come together, the reader's like, oh, it's like there was
Yeah.
these clues, and then it's like, oh man, like it's
Yeah.
all there, and you're like, oh damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of fun. I'm
More,
into that.
yeah, more like twists and things that like once the reader gets to the end, it's kind of like, oh, I should have seen that coming kind of deal.
Right. That's how I feel about all the M. Night Shyamalan stuff. Like I
Yeah.
love his movies, and just like somehow some of them obviously better than others, but like yeah, when it all comes together at the end and you're like, oh, like yeah, there were clues along the way if you knew
Yeah.
what you were looking for, and you're like,
Yep.
damn, okay.
Yep.
No, I can always appreciate that. So your next book, are you planning to release it around Halloween or like are kind of aiming for that?
That would be the goal, but
Right.
I think honestly, I think I'm gonna really promote this book more
Right.
so and kind of wait not this October, but kind of wait until next October
Okay.
to release a second book.
Yeah.
Um, just because I mean it's in the works, but I'm still stuck on a few things that I've got to figure
Yeah.
out, and the time's running out for that.
I've kind of found like, so I take it you do you work with like an editor and like there's a whole back and forth process then or
For this book, I had an editor,
yeah,
for the rough draft, and then the second edit was just kind of,
proofreading or something.
yeah, it was kind of a proofreader. And
Yeah.
then, so I mean, I will have an editor for the second one as well, but
Yeah.
I haven't picked one yet, I guess.
That's cool. I mean, there's so many options and like, God, sometimes I like promote on Facebook and then I just get like flooded with all these
Right.
editors, marketers, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how legit these these people are, but they all want my money. But yeah, finding a good editor, that feels like one of those things that's just like such a valuable asset. And then it's like I gotta hold on to this person because
Right?
like they
Yeah.
understand my vibe and like they do amazing work,
Mhm.
you
Yeah. The editor I had for this book was more of a broad editor.
know.
So for the, and she did, I mean, she did wonderful on this book, but for the
Yeah.
next book, I kind of want to look for maybe like a thriller specific editor.
Yeah, someone kind of specializes a little bit
Yeah.
and yeah. And that'd be a tough thing because it would almost be like they have to read the entire thing because like there's these little clues and hints and they might flag that as like, hey, this detail's floating and I don't know if it's necessary. And then at the
Hmm.
very end, like, oh wait, yeah, we did need that, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like you gotta read all the way through and then come back and be like, okay, what do we for sure need here or what's
Yeah.
missing? You know? Yeah. So
Yeah.
what inspired this story?
So honestly, I mean, like I said, I grew up on scary movies, scary stories, things like
Yeah.
that. So I think it was just a mix of everything. And I actually had a dream. So the book was actually from a dream.
Right.
I have very vivid dreams, but in the dream itself, I was actually writing it as a movie. So the
Mm.
crimes already happened and it was kind of like a true story.
Mm.
So I was recording a movie, but when I woke up, I was like, well, I can't really record a movie, but I can write a book.
I can write a book. Honestly, I get that all the time from authors that like these stories come from dreams. And it's so strange all the crazy things our minds are doing while we're sleeping. They're like
Hmm.
inventing entire worlds that we didn't ask them to, and then we become characters. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, like it is the most profoundly strange thing. But I'm like, shoot, if we can figure out a way to tap into that, there are so many ideas like trapped in there, you know?
There really are. And I mean, it's such a crazy thing because, like, when I sat down to write the book, it just kind of flowed. I mean, it just kind of came.
Yeah.
Um, so like I know like authors do a lot like plotting and writing things down, but like when I
Right.
sat down, it just kind of came.
You know, everyone's different. Like there are people who for sure do like this very intense planning and maybe they need that to keep on track. And I probably could use more of that because I like
Oh
meander.
yeah.
One author, this guy, Ron Shaw, awesome guy. He just spends so much time on the first chapter, like it's like setting the tone. But then sometimes you meet authors and it's like they write from intuitions. Like the book came from a dream and it just like poured out of me. And it's like I wrote
Yeah.
the whole thing in 6 weeks and then we spent 6 months editing. But the whole thing just like, you know, it was like tipping over a glass of water and just like whew, flowed onto the, I would say the paper, but I guess the screen. I don't know,
Yeah. Screen,
whatever we're
whatever
doing
you
there.
use.
Flowed onto the Word doc, right?
Yeah.
How long
I
did this
mean,
one? Yeah, no, go ahead, go ahead.
I mean, I do know some authors have actually like I've seen that they actually take pen and paper and they handwrite it. And I'm like, that's crazy. I would love to do that. I just don't
Right.
think I could.
God, I was doing some sign books the other day, and I was like, okay, I'm a little bit rusty. I'm like, my handwriting is atrocious, and my hand is cramping. I'm like, I don't do this enough, you know.
Right? And
I,
even the
um,
old school ways with typewriters and stuff. I think that would be so cool, but
yeah,
it's just so different now.
it's so classic. And then I'm also like, I'm so bad with loose pieces of paper. I'm like, this story is like out of order, and I'm like, I should start over. Like, this is I can't even discern all these. Yeah, papers. You turn on a fan, and then your whole
Yep.
manuscript.
Yep.
Yeah, the Word version works well.
Yep.
Yeah. So for people who are interested in this story, Is there anything about it in particular you'd want them to know? Like something that makes it like stand out or because I don't know as much about thrillers, honestly. Like I always enjoy thriller movies compared to like
Mhm.
just the brutal, like hostile, it's just like violence for the sake of violence. Like I can't do all that, but I love a good suspenseful thriller story. Um, I don't know anything in particular you want to say because I know like you've had a lot of inspiration watched a lot of these movies.
Yeah, of course. So like I under like the story itself is a thriller, obviously, and it's a
Yeah.
mystery, but it pulls along like there are underlying issues at hand. It takes into account the power of friendship, loyalty, community, things like that that are really the foundation of a town. But it also it envisions this town as like a picture perfect town.
Mm,
And nobody understands that there are secrets that are hiding underneath. So the mystery allows those secrets to kind of come out and show that this town isn't really what it seems,
mm.
and it's not as perfect as it seems.
I love that kind of thing. I think like The Village by M. Night Shyamalan or something. It's like
Yeah.
fake monsters terrorizing the town. But I mean that one blew my mind. Like everyone hated that movie, but it blew my mind at the end that they're like, oh, actually we're living in the present day and this was just a scam by the elders to keep everyone like from wandering off or thinking for themselves or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Oof. Oh, I love a good story like that. So you
Yeah, it's
said
more
oh,
so it's got a lot of twists that you don't
okay.
necessarily see once you start reading it. Like it's just out of nowhere.
Yeah. So how long did this one take you to write? Like not just the editing, but just in terms of like when you got going, you're like, all right, start
So
typing.
to actually write the book, I probably finished the manuscript in like 2 months. Like it was super
Yep.
easy to write for me. It just kind of
Right.
flowed. And then I took I got it edited and that took a minute. And then I kind of took some time away from it just
Mm,
because I really didn't know if I wanted to publish it. Like I really
right.
wasn't set on it yet. And then the whole learning curve of how to self-publish, that took a minute to kind of look into.
Yeah.
Um, so overall, I mean, it's been a work in progress probably for a year and a half.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I kind of envy your patience. Like I'm terrible about this. I'm like, all right, this book, like it's done, it's ready. I want it out in the world. And it's like I want everything done yesterday. But honestly, I mean, the best books I've written is like you do take a break from it. Because like
Yeah.
there's a certain point where like you're reading it and you're not seeing anything new. Your eyes are like
Hmm.
skipping over things because you know the story so
Hmm.
well. But it's like if you take a break, it's like I can look at my own story as if it isn't mine. Like I can read
Hmm.
it like just a reader and like actually judge like, oh, this is pretty good. Or like, I don't know. That's so important, but I'm terrible at it.
Yeah, I just needed, I mean, because like I said, self-publishing is such a learning curve. And
Right.
so if you go into it and you don't have any idea like what you're doing, or you don't have a community of
Yeah.
figuring it out, like, I mean, it takes a lot of patience to figure out how to do it. And I was like, I'm gonna take a break, maybe come back.
Yeah.
And
Well, while you
then
were taking the break, were you like working on like social media or marketing or just trying to learn and observe and be like, okay, what is the whole landscape here?
I was honestly just trying to learn
Yeah.
and see the path, I guess, to take.
Mhm.
I mean, I watched a lot of YouTubes, read a lot of blogs, things like that on people who
Right.
either self-published or tried traditional publishing.
Yeah.
And I just kind of wanted to decide which one was best for what I wanted to do.
Well, I love that. It's definitely a better approach. I mean, me taking the opposite approach. I learned too many things the hard way. You know what I mean? Because there's like, I mean, there's so many mistakes you can potentially make and more like wasting time and money on things, which is like, but that, for every 10 minutes you spend reading about it, watching a YouTube video, I mean, that can save you so much trouble
Yeah,
down
it
the
really
road.
can. I mean, it's crazy to think that you can learn so much just by a couple YouTube videos.
Right. And it's reaching out to a couple authors too to see what other people are doing and what's working. And
Hmm.
And it's also tricky too. So like sometimes you're working with authors, there's like you want to ask good questions and you can pick people's brains, but then also sometimes you come across authors who are very discouraged and you're like, you can get this impression that like it is a very hard journey. It's difficult. Like it needs this amount of money, this amount of time. And you almost have to like reject that and be like, no, 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 this is my journey. And,
Hmm.
it's every author's on their own journey. Mine doesn't have to look the way anyone else's journey looks. And like,
Right.
and that's the delicate balance. Like it is really good to have mentors in a community, but you also need to like put yourself in a separate box that you're like, I'm on my own journey here and I don't know what it's going to look like, but
Right.
someone else's experience isn't mine per se.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to kind of make your own path with it.
Yeah. Hey, so did you like grow up writing or just something you always wanted to do and it just connected one day?
I mean, of course, I grew up like writing short little stories in a journal,
Yeah.
stuff like that, nothing like serious. And
Yeah.
then I always had this dream to publish before a certain age. I won't say the age, but before a certain age, I wanted to get my book out there.
Yeah.
But I never really knew like what it would be or what it even looked like. And then
Right.
I just had the dream and I was like, okay, let's turn this into the book.
So it was like, okay, you always wanted to write something, some kind of like thriller book, and then
Mhm.
you have this dream and you're like, okay, we got the story, like let's do the thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that. It's God, I was reading your bio, so like you're from Texas, now you live in like the beautiful, Utah area, and it's
Yeah.
just gorgeous. And I'm like, I don't know, it'd be like an interesting place to write a thriller book because it's like so kind of serene and just like it
Yep.
feels very
Yep.
calm. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're like,
you definitely, even in Texas, I mean, I pulled some description of the town because it's based out of Wyoming, is where the
okay.
story is based out of.
Yeah.
So I pulled like some description of Texas versus Wyoming, and same thing with Utah. I mean,
Yeah.
because Utah and Wyoming are so similar in a way, scene wise,
Yeah, they're
scenery
kind of
wise.
desert.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely interesting. I mean, it feels like an interesting place to be like writing a thriller novel. You're like looking out the window at this like just beautiful, peaceful landscape, and you're like writing.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I mean, if you've ever been, it's definitely beautiful in Utah. I mean, there are
Yeah.
mountains everywhere.
Yeah. I've only passed through Salt Lake City, but I was like, wow, this is a really pretty city. And it's got this incredible backdrop. I'm like, damn, it's really, really cool here?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, it's beautiful. I mean, I will never get used to walking outside like a grocery store and seeing a mountain. Like
I mean,
it blows my
yeah.
mind.
Oh. Have you always been a mountain person versus like an ocean person?
Personally, yes, I'm more of a mountain pasture greenery type person than a beach person.
I dig that. Do you do anything like skiing or snowboarding, anything like this, or?
Haven't hopped on that train yet. So I've actually only been in Utah for a couple of years. So the skiing and snowboarding, that's like a whole different avenue for me
Right.
compared to Texas.
Yeah.
So when I do partake in that, I'm gonna have to do some serious training.
Yeah, I was never good at it and it scares me and it feels like one of those things. I'm like, I don't know. I think I'd rather go skydiving. I feel like I like my odds better at skydiving, not getting hurt, you know what I mean?
See, I don't like heights, so skydiving's out of the
Oh,
question for me.
I've never done it, but it seems like I don't know. I mean, obviously terrifying and I'm sure like you could be like, "Oh, this is great," and then you're up in the plane and then you're like about to jump out and you're like, "I don't know if I still
Yeah,
want to
like
do
maybe not.
maybe not so much." Yeah. Have you looked into audiobooks at all? Because I see you got the Kindle, you got the paperback, hardcover. Have you looked into audiobooks?
So I have, that's actually something that will be in the works.
Nice.
I'm trying to find the right, narrator for it.
Right, right.
I've had a couple auditions, things like that. I've kind of put that on hold because I'm a vendor at a local market here.
Nice.
So that's happening in October.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to prepare for that, and the audiobook kind of got put on hold for a little bit.
I totally get that. Are you looking through like ACX or like a paid service thing or?
It will be through ACX,
Yeah.
but marketing wise, I've kind of just reached out to people like on Instagram or Threads, things like that, that are narrators.
It's not a bad thing to do, just finding like the right people to audition or
Hmm.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
that's the
sure.
right way to do it. Like I originally had some quotes and I didn't realize there was a service like ACX and was like, oh, like we need $4,000, $5,000, whatever. I'm like, yeah, I don't know about all
Yeah,
this. And I was like,
yeah.
oh, not so much.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am. Because obviously being self-published, you have to take things into budget, and audiobooks just not in the budget right now.
Right. I mean, and the ACX thing, depending on how long the book is, I mean, there are plenty of narrators who will do it like, we'll split the commission later on.
Hmm.
But depending on the book length, like I haven't had much luck with like a really long book. Because I mean, the time commitment for the narrators is like, listen, I could use a little upfront cash for like
Right.
spending 30 hours on this. But yeah, I mean, finding the right narrator is so crucial. But hopefully you'll get someone good soon. I've had very good luck over there.
Yeah, how have you, I guess, did you like going back to your first book per se,
Mhm.
did you release all of it kind of all at once, so like the print Kindle audiobook, or did you kind of wait for the audiobook or
Honestly, okay, so my first book came out about 4 years ago, like somewhere like the tail end of the whole COVID thing. The audiobook literally just came out a month ago.
okay.
I didn't know about ACX. I was kind of an idiot. I was all inspiration and no information. It was like, okay, I'm gonna write these books and I'm gonna put them out there. And I didn't have like an Instagram following. Like I wasn't doing, I was like, I'm gonna figure all that out, but first I'm gonna write a book that's worth reading. Um, and I wish I had finished the book, stepped away for 3 months, done my homework, reread my book to make sure it's actually ready, and then like I actually know what I'm doing when it comes out.
Yeah.
But better late than never, because once it's out there, I mean it's out there forever. And especially also as indie writers, we can change anything anytime. So like if a
Hmm.
reader messages you like, oh, I found a typo, you can just drop in a new copy and then tomorrow
Yeah.
improved and like, okay, that typo's gone forever. So there's no right or
Yeah.
wrong way to do it, just better ways and harder ways.
Yeah. Would you definitely, I guess, recommend getting an audiobook eventually?
Yeah, I've had pretty good luck with them. I mean, what's interesting is like there's a lot of readers on Audible. Like, because the audiobook is just easier for a lot of people, just because, I
Mhm.
mean, with our schedules and everything, there's a lot of people who would enjoy books, but they can't fit it into their day. But a lot of those people are not going to be your social media people. So it's almost like you're going to want the audiobook for later on, right? Like if your book has momentum and people are talking about it, and let's say Janet at her book club recommends it to a friend, that friend might pick up the audiobook versus like the paperback or something. So it feels like
Right.
it's like one more option and avenue, but I think the sales are probably about 50-50 audiobook versus like ebook and paperback and all this. So it's worth doing, especially if it doesn't cost you like a bunch of money up front.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I appreciate a good audiobook because like sometimes in the car, like the radio's got nothing going on. And I'm like, you know what? I could be exploring a book that I like wanted to check out, but just wasn't making time for.
Yeah, and I mean, I can appreciate the audiobook
Yeah.
audience. Like I said, I'm just a print person, so like audiobook and Kindle, like it's just so what's the word? Unknown to me because that's not something that like I partake in. So,
That's actually a conversation I've never had with an indie author, but I'm dealing with something similar now is like you're trying to work with an audience that you don't totally understand because it's
mhm.
not necessarily the way you do things.
Mhm.
So like I kind of get that with the whole like Kindle thing or I've got one book that's like great for female readers, but I'm like a male author. So I'm like, oh, what do like trying to get in the minds of people that like are, different from you, have different styles, reading
Right.
preferences, and you're like, what do other people like besides just me?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of why I want to get the audiobook out there because I know it is a good market and I know that there are a
Mhm.
ton of people that prefer audiobook and like you said, don't have time for print book print books per se, but
Right.
I just I've got to dive into the unknown eventually.
Well, waiting for the right narrator is like a really good thing too, right? Just because I mean the audiobook's going to be out there forever. It's like taking your time and getting it right. And especially like if your book and your reviews are great. So like, I think you fit into this category for sure that like if your book is really good, it is worth going the slower route and getting things right. Because
Right.
like once the audiobook's out, it's not as easy to change. Like you can, and you can ask for edits and things, but you kind of mostly live with it once it's live. And, if you pick the wrong person, it's like, well, that's what we're doing. And, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, for sure. And I've definitely heard like just from because I've tried to learn a little bit about it here and there, but I've
yeah.
definitely like from what I've read, I definitely learned that like a narrator, like not the right narrator for your book can actually, you know, turn readers off from what
It
I've
really
read.
does.
So,
It really does. And it can be complicated too, because like obviously you have multiple characters. So like,
mhm.
they have to do like different accents. Like people don't necessarily appreciate, I didn't appreciate until I started working with narrators that like they're also actors, like they're dramatic readers. I mean, they're also audio engineers because ACX is very picky. Like I tried to do one of my own audiobooks
Mhm.
and they just like kept rejecting it like, oh, this doesn't meet this sound criteria, like the bits and the range. And I'm like, listen, I don't know what any of this means. And I I couldn't get it through. But yeah, the narrators, I mean, it's kind of an extraordinary job. I mean, there's a lot of skills that go into creating an audiobook. And the ACX, I mean, everyone I've worked with has been tremendous. But I was like, wow, like I didn't realize kind of how complicated the whole thing is.
Yeah, and it really can like you said, like I have different point of views in my book. So
Right.
I've toyed with the idea of like dual narration, but I mean again, that's a whole different learning curve.
Right. I mean, that would be in a perfect world, right? Because like sometimes you have a male narrator who's trying to do like a woman's voice, or
Hmm.
a female narrator trying to like, and then they're like, "Do I talk?" And it's like, like, should we do that? And then
Right?
they run it by you, like, I don't know, maybe it feels like we're trying too hard or something. Or I don't know. It's like more distracting than anything sometimes, and you're like, it's a delicate balance. So mad respect. Shout out to all the narrators.
Yeah,
We love
for
you.
sure.
Thank you. You guys work hard.
Yeah, they do amazing work.
Oh, I think so. So we only have a couple minutes left. I'm going to put all your links in the description, but are there any specific places people should look for you, follow you, connect with you?
So the link tree that I think I sent you that will be in the
Yes.
description, that has everything. So every Instagram, Instagram, TikTok, any avenue that I'm on, it'll just
Nice.
have all the clicks on it available. I am in the works of making a website, so that will be updated once it's done.
Cool.
And then for like signed copies, I am in the Crafty Bookstore. It is a online bookstore and she
Nice.
does amazing. And I believe she has 25 to 30 indie authors in her store. And she
Nice.
also does like custom engraving bookmarks, and there are a lot of bookish accessories available. So if you do want a signed copy of the book, it is available there.
That's awesome. Is she like local to you?
She is not. I actually just
Oh,
met her on Instagram and got my book in the store.
that's pretty. Sometimes you meet really cool people on Instagram. Like there are some people doing cool, cool things.
Yeah, I mean, she's amazing and she's been so helpful and the store's been helpful. And like I said, it's mainly indie authors that are in there, but there are
Mhm.
some traditional novels from my understanding.
Yeah, you got to have what people want, right? I mean, the store's
Yeah.
got to, yeah. So like finding that balance between what people are coming in looking for versus like, oh, let me turn you on to this hidden gem you might not know
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. And I definitely think it's cool to offer like signed copies that necessarily people that aren't local to you can get.
Yeah, no, that's a very cool thing. And I feel like I don't have any signed books from anyone else, just my own.
Yeah.
But I feel like that would be very special. Like I'm like, that'd be a cool, especially if it's like a book you absolutely love.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, yeah. So I don't know. So if anyone, because sometimes it happens, someone reads your ebook and they're like, wow, I really love this. And then if they know that there's a signed copy option, they're like, this is one I'd like to have on the shelf. And it would be so cool to have something from the author.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. Like, I mean, I don't have it, but I would love a signed copy of a Stephen King book. But
right.
that's
God, I don't even know what that would run you, right?
right
But just wait in line for 6 hours or something.
for
But
sure.
I imagine his book signings are insane. He probably like
I'm
doesn't
sure
even.
they are.
Yeah, probably
I
something
don't
only
even,
order.
yeah, I don't even know if he does them anymore.
Oh, it might be I mean, he's so famous that it almost might be like a safety hazard or something. You know what I mean?
Probably.
Right. You know, like,
Probably.
so while we're still indie authors and we're fry in the big ocean here, we'll we'll do our signings and
Yep.
uh, it is cool. I mean, I do want to I want to do more in-person events and things. So have you done anything like that yet?
I have not. So the actual market that I'm in, the vendor market,
Yeah.
it's one of the biggest in Utah.
Nice.
So that will be my first, I guess, signing or
Just have some books
yeah.
available.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I mean, it couldn't hurt, right? You just have a couple extra copies at home. You get a box of 10 or something. You're like, let's
Yeah.
just test the waters here and see what
Yeah,
happens.
for sure. And I mean, I'm pretty excited. It'll be the first like event for me, so
Nice.
it'll kind of pave the way for signings or anything like that.
Right. It feels like a lot of the authors I meet with, like a lot of them use TikTok and that's like one of their big avenues. But a lot of people, it's like the in-person events because when you can talk to readers, tell them about the book and they get your energy and they see you holding it. It's just like you can have conversations and, you know, because sometimes you put out a social media video and people just like, yeah, they'll just click off it, right? They're like,
Hmm.
I don't know, the in-person thing, it feels like that is a great route and the readers love it and they feel a connection to the work because they know the person who wrote it. So
Right.
I've only done one in-person event and I'm like, no, this is the way. Like we're gonna do more of this.
Yeah, you've only done one though.
Yeah, it was only a couple weeks ago and it was like by accident, but it was like, wow, like I have been missing out this whole time. I've been like in my little cave, like writing, I'm doing videos, and I'm like, no, there's a whole world out there. And I could go
Yeah,
talk to readers and actually know the people because part of it is you never know who's buying your book, but like in person, you're
right.
like,
Yeah. And I
yeah.
definitely want to get out there and do the book signings. It's just, I mean, this was released in November, so I'm
Mhm.
still trying to
It's
learn like the niche marketing and things like that for it.
it's a whole deal. I know Zoom
It
is going to
is.
kick this out in, I'm not sure, about 30 seconds or less here, but
Okay.
Alexa, this has been an absolute pleasure. When your next book is coming out, you let me know. I'd love to bring you back on the show. We'll talk
Okay.
about, yeah, work in progress, whatever the new release is.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. And like I said, it's